Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Why, hello there. Welcome back.
So this was our Patreon-only exclusive. It was a little long-winded, 54 minutes, but at the same time, it feels like that's just begun to touch on things.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things in there that are just important that I don't think people really think of. So, yeah.
No, and, I've been leaving a few comments on a few prepping channels where, these are channels that all they do is prepping. And it's just, if you're going to give, I understand people don't necessarily understand nutrition and GMOs and the dangers of fluoride, etc. when you're talking about just prepping channels. And this is some of the stuff that we were covering over here on our Patreon exclusive because, unfortunately, most of the people out there are going to just think, well, we need 2,000 calories a day or we could live on 1,200 calories a day, but they're not going to think anything about the fact that they're taking in toxic GMO long-term prepping foods that are not going to boost their immune system. And if we are talking about all sorts of different things out there, bacterial and otherwise, you need a good functioning immune system. And so how do you prep while you're boosting your immune system and strengthening your mind, body, and spirit complex?
Right. And you add in real world stress to that. And if you're eating bad food, it's a bad combination.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where I see so many prepping channels doing a great job alerting people, but then not covering something that, again, they probably are not even aware of it themselves. Otherwise, they would mention it. Meanwhile, and make sure you are subscribed to all the channels just in case there's ever an issue with getting anything up anywhere. And again, we want to thank our Patreons for support. So here you have China Defense Ministry saying that China is ready to intervene militarily anywhere in the United States. Oh, did I say in the United States? Oops. Freudian slip, kids. Anywhere if the United States or NATO decides to attack Russia. Yeah, this was a huge, huge statement. And, we were tempted to make another video last night. We recorded like 2 hours of video yesterday. But this is big because this is going to come soon. And I think, again, we are in, our last weeks, maybe a month or two of prepping before we will start to probably see a real breakdown and even that Red Dawn scenario, the sleeper cells awakening, the migrant immigrants being activated, it's all coming down now. And this is exactly the timeline that we've been sharing with you guys for years. Unfortunately, I don't feel that we've shifted the timeline enough, but I still hold out hope that we can because people are awakening.
They are, which is a good thing. So we want to keep that momentum. The awakening is, I think that takes priority.
You have Macron, who is, again, was a Rothchild banker. What can you say about that? Rothchild banker. Does it get any more evil? I don't know. That's pretty darn dark. When we look at the fact that it's the money system that controls everything. And of course, there's those select families that, as much as they try to debunk things, we get it. We get it. All you guys get it, but unfortunately, still a large part of the planet is just sort of waking up to this. Look at this. This is in France. He's riding military vehicles, planes flying overhead. And he's saying, we have to do anything. We cannot allow Russia to win Ukraine. Anything. Boots on the ground, whatever it takes, troops, etc. But the people don't want this. No, but this is a major part of the plan of the banking cabal and the military-industrial complex. In fact, here you have France. They want peace. Peace they're talking about. And they're saying, Macron, it's your war. We don't want it. No, and none of us want this war. When I really think about how the control system has caused so much uncontrolled suffering upon the planet, it's almost mind-boggling that it can keep going on, but it won't go on in what's coming, which is the end of the Kali Yuga. Unfortunately, it might be that half the planet or more decides to go and follow the control system right off the cliff. We have to do our best to awaken and then get out of the way. Get out of the way, again, if that train is rolling down the tracks, get out of the way as best as you can, because it's going to be a mess.
It is. It is. And, sometimes you might be called to get in that mess, but if you don't want to be in the mess, get out for sure.
And that's a great point, because, it might be your whole purpose to be there, right there, screaming from the rooftops, and awakening people. And maybe that's your whole purpose for this life. Maybe it isn't to escape the fall of Babylon the Great, as we were talking about in that other video yesterday. That was just so much fun to put together and tie all these things together, because it's all right there. It's always been right there. But what happens is people stop. They don't look deeper. They just stop because they're in a comfort zone. Well, the comfort zone will lead to destruction and lead to people like Macron and all those other cronies getting their way and starting the war. And, maintaining control is the worst of it, because that's what they want to do. Create the chaos, emerge from the chaos with something that looks new and fresh, but it's not going to be new and fresh. As you see Muslim immigrants storming Marseille police station with Molotov cocktails, they are in place. They are getting irritated, and I don't think that they're going to be able to sit still for too long. New York and many other places are ticking time bombs. 30 days of staying in shelters. Thousands of illegals will be kicked out on the streets. How long till this goes south? Yeah, because it's still relatively cold at night, and it's meant to be inflammatory. This is why they do this, and we were covering this in the video on Evolutionary, and of course they all go up on Patreon, talking about how this system has been in place for thousands of years, and you could literally see it. It's written down that they use shifting populations in order to bring about these wars and catastrophic change and the destruction of empires. This is how they take down empires. It's even on Wikipedia. Again, the source of the CIA, FBI control system, which has ties into every single government around the globe, because these national borders are only truly an illusion, and they are part of the tools that they use. Yet you have 11 dead after a week of Ukrainian strikes deep into the Russian region and around Belgorod. 82 people injured. Direct attacks on Russia going on. Direct attacks in Russia. China said they will intervene anywhere in the globe. Anywhere, if there's attacks on Russia directly by NATO or the U.S. And this is what I've been sharing with you guys since really I had put one up in November of 2017 and had to re-put it up in 2018 because they took it down. This is exactly what I've seen all my life. And, unfortunately, it looks like it's coming down as expected with the Red Dawn scenario. The largest NATO base in Europe is being built in Romania as we speak right here. It's a little too late. It's because, NATO's not supposed to win. But again, they make money, which equals more control. And this is $2.5 billion being spent. It's probably already spent. Again, the monetary system is how they control us. Our taxes go towards our own destruction. Isn't it insane? But it is the reality that we're waking up to.
It is. And, I'm not sure what to do about it, because it's not like you can just stop paying taxes. I mean, I've heard things and people say, well, taxes are voluntary, but then we also know people who've lost everything because they didn't want to pay into a system and it didn't go well for them. So I think you really have to understand the bully that you're up against, and it really is a bully. And sometimes you just have to be careful. You have to be cautious about your moves, about your steps, and about how you do things, because I don't think any of us can really afford for a gazillion lawyers to come after us and just, because they've made up a bunch of laws, and they are bigger. And if we could all do it at the same time, that's one thing, but we have to look at it realistically. That's not happening yet, but it's not to say that it won't happen.
Reports that Yemen is working on hypersonic missiles, maybe even testing out those hypersonic missiles on Israeli targets within the war zone over there. Obviously, if they have them, they're getting them from Russia and China. And there's also reports that Iran says that it's totally self-sufficient, making its military drones. And we've seen massive military hardware coming out of North Korea. This is because all these groups, these apparent nations, are completely unified behind the power shift that's coming. And here you have a Yemeni official just saying, hey, we're working with Russia, China, and BRICS to bring about the collapse. Well, yeah, and that collapse is sooner than later. It really is. It's much sooner than many people would realize. Meanwhile, within the BRICS nations, you still have protesters taking to the streets in Cuba as the lights go out across the island. Yeah, because, again, it's still the same system. It's just they're elevating one to put down another. So what they'll do is they'll shift the way people live in the nations that they want to rise up in power, and they'll bring down the living standards of those people in the nations they no longer want to utilize to impose their will. So the United States and perhaps a good portion of Europe is going to become third world countries, or what we would call third world countries. And meanwhile, the first world is going to shift to Asia and places like Abu Dhabi, which it's already happened. When you look at the cities and the transportation and the skyscrapers and all the little gadgets that are everywhere, the U.S., our cities look a mess. You drive through New York on I-95, it's atrocious. You go and you see places like Abu Dhabi again, or in Singapore. They're clean and neat and amazing and shiny and new and look like the Jetsons. This is because it's already shifted. And here you have Niger severing ties with U.S. military after alarm raised. The junta will supply uranium to Iran. Well, Iran doesn't need uranium because they just, they're tied together at the hip with China and Russia. Russia has the largest nuclear arsenal in the world. Iran doesn't need uranium. This is just silly talk. It really is silly. If they need it, Russia will give it to them. They'll work together. I mean, talk about a distraction. Oh, we can't. I mean, it's just, it's beyond silly to get worked up over things like this, but they work to work up the population. The reality is, again, Iran, China, Russia, they are completely unified at this point in time, until it no longer serves the power structure. And you could tell how the power is going to shift just by looking at what resources are available. 1870, the UK had more than half of the world's steel production for weapons of war. In fact, the UK, if people missed it in the Opium Wars, easily took down China, and that's how they got Hong Kong. And they literally did drug the population. It's why they call it the Opium Wars. So they were sending opium in to lower the cognitive function, even within the royal family over there, quote unquote, royal family leadership over there. And now we have fentanyl over here, with China doing that to us. This is the system. So the U.S., 1950, accounted for more than half of the world's steel production, and China in 2015. It's pretty easy to see how it's going to go. India would probably be the next nation over time. Meanwhile, look at this. China's giant drone taxi can take 5 passengers. Meanwhile, the roads in New York are atrocious. And Haiti is a vision of what they're trying to accomplish on a big time scale. Gang ravaged, you have militias coming together, people armed, fighting each other with machetes. It's Mad Max. It's completely Mad Max. And that's what they have planned for us in the U.S. and other NATO countries. Meanwhile, the UN says famine is imminent in northern Gaza as Israel launches another raid. Yeah, this is exactly the prophecies that we have been talking about, which ultimately it's looking at what the system has planned, and then the system carries it out. It's pretty simple.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, everything is quiet and peaceful. I just love that goat, except it's tied up. It almost makes me feel like it's out for bait. I hope not. But that is a beautiful picture of a white goat with our moon, and I just love it. And then we ran across this guy who takes in these pups that are disabled, and he puts them in a chair, and these dogs live their best life. And I think that's so beautiful, that someone has found something to do that is with their life that's so fulfilling and gives back to others in a way. Animals are so precious. They have so much to teach us. The unconditional love that they provide, and with no expectations at all. Us humans, we have a little ways to go sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. We could learn from our four-legged friends. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for your support and being here. Stay prepped or get better prepped. Again, it's good to be as ready for whatever will come. Meanwhile, keep putting out your prayers that this dark system will fall apart. State it verbally, when you are just there doing the dishes or whatever. Just ask whatever higher powers you like to connect with, that this system may fall down, that all will be revealed, and that we will awaken to truly a new day.
Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.